So I think we all still remember very much so the demise of the Kinect that started with the Xbox 360 and then fizzled out during the Xbox One era. In fact, some people look back on the start of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 generation, and they point to a couple of things that really hurt the Xbox One right out of the gate and pretty much let Sony dominate from day one. And one of those points seems to always be the Kinect. If you remember, the Kinect wasn't viewed as like the best thing ever to have in your house because it was a camera, and there were some interesting patents that we'll take a little bit of a look at here as well that caused some red flags and some alarms for some people. But at one point, yeah, you needed the Kinect because remember, it came with it. A lot of issues really plagued the Xbox One at launch, but the Kinect really hurt it more so than helped it. That was when the E3 was all about like TV, 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 right? It was a whole thing. It could recognize, the Kinect could recognize your face and everything, and now we seem to see them being used in airports and stuff for security cameras. It's very, very interesting, although I will say the Kinect was pretty high-tech at the time and could do some pretty crazy things. So when I saw that Facebook was introducing what's basically their own Kinect, I had a bit of a laugh. And I thought we'd take a look at it here because think about it. It's Facebook wanting to put a camera in your living room right there in front of you. That's what they want to do. And I already know what some of you are thinking. Why would I do that? Well, let's take a look at what they've introduced here. We'll actually jump over here. A couple of these articles I'll actually leave down in the description for you guys, so you could take a look at it for yourself. But this is from The Verge. Did a full write-up on it. Facebook introduces Portal TV, which is a video chat camera accessory for your television. So the idea here is you will plug it in to the HDMI port, and then it will act as basically, from what I can tell, a webcam with a microphone that can pretty much pick up everyone in the room. So you can have like a big group discussion if you want. Like, let's say there's a relative very far away, but there's a group of you who want to say hi to them. As long as you're in the room and you have this camera plugged in, you can do that. Now, of course, you could technically do that with like your own webcams and everything, but I guess this is designed to work through Facebook and everything. And for the most part, a lot of people have Facebook and they've become pretty much in tune with Facebook to where some people just outright need it almost. It's a very addictive service for some people. It's social media. That's kind of the way it is. So Facebook introduces this camera. It appears to retail for $149 and it's going to ship November 5th. And actually, that's about right, because I remember the Kinect, I think that was $150 when it came out, even on the Xbox 360, and that was quite a while ago. And at the time, the Kinect was pretty high tech. It put infrared dots all over the room to detect where you were, and we eventually got to the Xbox One where the Kinect, where it could actually detect fingers and everything. There were all these patents about being able to detect your heart rate and stuff. It was some crazy stuff going on, but here we are now with Facebook, who's been under fire for privacy concerns, we'll say that. Now, looking at this camera, they do talk about WhatsApp calls, which are encrypted from end to end, so that it seems to make people feel a little bit better, but we know that Facebook likes data. They like consumer data quite a bit. They collect it a lot, and that's the biggest thing we're running into here is what you would be installing in your house is a camera that will send quite a bit of information back and forth to Facebook. They already, of course, look, when you buy a phone, you've pretty much given up some of your privacy right away, right? I mean, your phone has several microphones on it, generally several cameras on it, and we've seen a ton of case studies now where people will just try it out, right? They won't search for an item, but they'll talk about it out loud for a week, and then, oh, look, ads start popping up in different apps or on Facebook that they're using around that item. So yeah, a lot of that stuff's being used to figure out what they can serve up that you'll be most likely to click on. It's just the way it is. That's the world we live in. Generally, if you're online in any way, whether it's through social media or just browsing the web even, you're being tracked and your data is always being used to try to sell you stuff. That's just the way it is. But this is like a whole nother level for me. Now, what's interesting about this is it seems like Facebook is very aware of the concerns that people have around them and the camera. They have the, I think they call it privacy shield, which if you look at this picture, you can kind of see it on the front. It's a little circle that you push to the side and it covers the lens. And then they have a switch on the side that supposedly turns off the microphone. I say supposedly because it's a manual switch, and it makes me wonder if it's actually off to them or if it's just off to the people. Like, you basically muting yourself, but you're not necessarily muting yourself to Facebook, essentially. That'd be my thing. It's so hard, obviously, for a lot of people who have seen this whole thing online evolve to completely trust Facebook when it comes to this stuff. Now, of course, if you have Alexa, same deal. You have a microphone in your house, and that also brings up a lot of concerns for people. Now, I look at this and so here's the thing. I think if there was enough trust and everything was great across the board and there was no information being collected, I do think a camera like this would be neat. I mean, if you have it in your house and you do want to call people through your TV and you want to have big group calls, that seems like a neat idea, right? It's just the trust factor is not there. Now, it does have face tracking technology. And I bring that up because that is something that Kinect also kind of came under fire for. It was getting a little too personal with the people who are using it. This uses the same kind of technology where it can actually follow you around the room, so it can lock onto your face. The Kinect, I remember this doing this as well. The few times that I used a Kinect back in the day to do calls, I remember it was able to lock on your face and follow you around while you were talking. It was a very interesting thing, kind of jarring even, to see this. Not only could it detect your entire body and everything, but it could pick out your face, log you in, and pretty much get to know you. It was a weird, weird thing for a lot of people who just got the Kinect and wanted to try it out, and all of a sudden, it can recognize you. At the time, trust me, I know phones can do it now and everything, but at the time, it was very, very weird. So this can do that as well. It'll follow you around the room and everything while you're walking. Again, neat idea, but you can kind of see how it's getting a bit personal. And the thing that a lot of people are running into is that there have been cases where we've learned that even the Kinect, if we go over to, for example, Business Insider, who had talked about patents, the idea here is that the Kinect would have been able to count the number of people in your room and make sure that you're not renting out a movie for too many people. There are also these patents that were very interesting about product placement, trying to figure out what you're eating or drinking. There were some very, very, I would say even invasive at some points, patents going on, and it just brings us into that information era where big tech companies are trying to figure out everything about us to try to sell more stuff to us and be able to pretty much, again, serve up ads that we would relate to and want to click on. It all comes down to that. And then we, of course, have found out fairly recently that after Vice put up an entire article all about Microsoft contractors listening to Xbox owners in their homes, they're recounting situations from before about them listening in to different conversations and things happening, and they talked about quite a bit. Now, they did talk about how the contractors who were not technically employed, contracting is a whole thing on its own, but they bring in contractors to listen through different conversations or voice clips that were picked up, and the idea there to try to make the service better. But they hear all kinds of stuff, younger kids who are talking to the Xbox, all kinds of stuff. So consider that. In your own home, they're listening to you. They can see you through the camera. There's a lot of stuff that has to kind of be taken into consideration. And it's just interesting to see Facebook go back to the Kinect because it didn't work for Microsoft in 2013. But it's interesting that we're coming around to the idea of all of this, right? We're used to almost, I guess, just surveillance and everything to where people aren't considering it as much as they were before. Remember the pushback Microsoft got on their DRM and all this other stuff? Whether it was all digital, we didn't know if we had ownership of our games. We're kind of getting past that now. Like Microsoft they were just too far ahead of everyone at that time. If you think about it, they were coming to the table with a Kinect that now Facebook's trying to sell for the same price, just as a camera to conference call from your TV. We did see them do DRM, right, with their Xbox, and now we're kind of seeing that with subscription services to where you don't really own any of the stuff, right? You subscribe to a Game Pass, you subscribe to Apple Arcade or Stadia or anything, or PlayStation Now, and you just have access to your games. That's it. You don't actually buy them. It's all DRM enabled essentially, where you have to check in at times, and it's very interesting to see how what Microsoft was trying to do before get kind of normalized more and more over the last, what was that, 2013? So the last 6 years, going on 7. Interesting stuff here. But I will say, not too interested myself in the Portal TV from Facebook. Don't think I need a camera in my living room to just kind of be picking up the landscape and seeing everything. But hey, maybe you're interested in it. You let me know down below, and let me know what you think about Facebook going back and pretty much introducing their own Kinect, something that fell flat on its face 6 years ago, but here it is now being pushed by a company that's also doing Oculus and, of course, massive amounts of information gathering. Let me know about that, guys, down below. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike if not, and I'll see you guys next time.